Hi, welcome to my new vlog, The Goth Writer. As everybody can see easily, I am a goth. So we are the kind of people who always wear black and scare little children on the streets and are totally dark in their hearts and minds. We also are kind of badass if we live in South Carolina, as I do, because try to wear always black when it is 90 degrees outside with 90% humidity. So much to me. But I am also a writer. And this is the reason why I started this vlog. I have been a professional writer for 20 years and I would like to share some of the insights I made during this long time I have been in the creative industry. I figured that I made a lot of experiences which might be helpful to all the writers out there who are still at the beginning of their writing journey. I remember when I started out a long time ago, I would have wished to get maybe one or the other little advice to help me out in the beginning. However, so that's why I started this vlog. Just to introduce myself a little bit, I started out as a screenwriter. I studied at Film School Munich, also a long time ago, and then worked in the German film industry for over 10 years. As everybody can hear, I have this wonderful German accent, so that's not a big surprise that I come from there. However, so I worked in the movie industry for a long time, and after that changed to the video games industry, where I worked as a game writer for a couple of years before I basically made my childhood dream come true and published my first novel back in Germany. Meanwhile, I live in the US, here in South Carolina, where I dare to wear black no matter what. And I just have published my first novel in English in November 2019, and I'm very proud of this book because English is my third language, and I always wanted to live and work here in the US and work for the English-speaking audience. This is my book, to show it to you. It's called Shadow City, and it has this beautiful cover. Yeah, I'm very proud of this book. So much to self-promotion. That's not my aim here. I just wanted to show that I actually have a book out there. My next book will be out now in 2020. I will tell about that sometime later. So let's start with some writing tips, some writing insights I would like to share with other writers. And my first episode, I decided to start out with a very controversial topic among writers, and the topic is plotter versus pantser. First of all, when I first heard the word pantser, I had no idea what that should be, because it sounds like pants. You know, what do pants have to do with writing? But apparently it's a real word, and I will tell you the definition of NaNoWriMo. The definition of NaNoWriMo of a pantser is that you fly by the seat of your pants when you are writing your novel. You have nothing but the absolute basics planned out for your novel. Alright, so much to a pantser. There also is, of course, the plotter, who stands at the exact opposite of the pantser. The plotter is a person who plots and plans everything in advance and then starts writing the book and knows exactly what will happen and when. yeah, these two kind of writers often get into conflict with each other, and I would like to talk about the pros and cons of both of them a little bit. Not long ago, actually, on Twitter, I saw somebody writing that they would wish that pantsers would put that in the blurb of their books, that the book is written by a pantser, because then they wouldn't bother reading it. I think that's pretty harsh and pretty mean, to be honest with you, because there are a lot of excellent pantsers out there. But, always a but with me, I think that it's very difficult to write a good book when you take this pantser approach. There are many reasons for that. So first of all, when first-time writers start writing the book, very, very often they start out as pantsers, because we all have this very romantic idea in our heads how writing really works. So we just sit down and drink tea or coffee or whiskey, as Hemingway did, a lot of it, and we sit there, and then the muse will come and kiss us, and we will have a lot of inspiration, and then we will start writing, and it will be just awesome. So that's what we think, and that's what most people think how writing is. Everybody who has written at least one book knows that that's total bullshit, because it has nothing to do with reality. Writing is a really hard job, and it is really difficult to write a book and finish a book, which means that everybody who ever has finished a book is a writer. And it's a big accomplishment to be able to do that. So, pantsers. When we start out writing, we start out as pantsers because we think that's how we want it to be. It will come out of our subconsciousness. So then, first-time writers start writing the book, and they have a vague idea and maybe some vague plot ideas and characters, and then they start out writing, and it is awesome. It feels fantastic. I can tell you that being a pantser is very, very fantastic, because it's almost like you're entering like an affair with your own work, right? So it's really nice. However, you start writing, and then suddenly you don't know how to continue, because you end up at a point, maybe in the first half of the book, maybe my puppy is doing puppy stuff. So you maybe end up at a point in the middle. I will talk about that in a later episode, why the middle of the book or of any story is the most difficult one. You end up at this point, and then you don't know how to continue. And then is then something many refer to as the writer's block. I hear or I read about writer's blocks all the time. People ask how to deal with writer's blocks, and there are countless of blogs out there who will tell you how to deal with writer's blocks and so on. I need to be brutally honest here. The easiest way not to end up with a writer's block is don't be a pantser. Yeah, okay, I'm a plotter, obviously. I will come to that later. So, the difficult thing about being a pantser is that you maybe end up at a point where you don't know how to continue. It happens to many, many writers, and it is difficult. And some of first-time writers then eventually give up with their story, start something new, and then they have so many work-in-progress manuscripts and never finish one, and that's just sad. However, I don't want to say that a pantser is a bad writer, not at all. There are a lot of very famous and very successful pantser writers out there. I think the most successful and most famous one is Stephen King, who is an outspoken pantser. He just has a vague idea and will start writing, and somehow something genius will come out of it. I think that's amazing, to be honest with you, but unfortunately not every one of us is Stephen King. We would like to be, maybe have such good ideas as he has, and earn as much money as he does, but unfortunately not everybody can be him. So what is good for Stephen King might not be good for you and me. That's where the plotter comes into play. The big advantage of a plotter is you plot the story of your book before you start writing it. That's what I usually do. I'm not 100% plotter. I'll come back to that later. But what I do is, before I start writing the first sentence of my book, I know how the book will end. I know the main characters and their story arches, and I know what will happen. And that makes it very, very easy, because I write everything down like an outline, and I will always know what to write next. So this is what I said before. When you plot in advance, falling into the writer's block trap, it's much more difficult, actually, than if you're a pantser. I always like to refer to the plot you design in advance. For me, it's like a skeleton. So you have the skeleton. I built the skeleton piece by piece of my story. And then once the skeleton is there, I also develop the characters in advance very thoroughly. But that's something I would like to talk about in a later episode, how to do that, how to create and develop characters. So I got the skeleton of the story, and with all the bones and all the spine. Yeah, I'm a goth. Of course, it's a skeleton for me. What else would I describe it as not as a skeleton? So I got the skeleton, and then when I write, yes, I'm morbid, I will put flesh into the skeleton and fill it up with muscles and skin and whatever, right? And at the end, there isn't just a skeleton, it will be the whole person with everything. So that's how I compare it. That's how story writing or book writing works for me. And the reason I do this is that, as I mentioned before, I used to be a screenwriter. So when you want to write a screenplay, you have to work like that. You can't be a pantser when you're a screenwriter. That's absolutely impossible. So that's what I learned, that's what I studied, and that's the technique I still work with until today, even though I'm a novelist now. So what I can tell from experience is, even if you would like to be the super creative person where the inspiration comes out of nowhere, and you want to be the pantser, sometimes building the skeleton will be very, very helpful. And it will be easier for you to finish your book and actually bring it out there to us readers, because that's what you want. You sit there many, many hours and days and weeks and sometimes years because you want to tell a story and you want people to read this story. So the easiest way to do that is to plan it so you won't fall into the writer's block trap and maybe never finish your book. But I don't believe that it's necessarily true that you have to be a plotter or a pantser. There is a lot in between, and actually the most fun to work, in my opinion, is when you mix both of them a little bit. So here's what I do. Sometimes I am a hardcore plotter, right? With Shadow City, it is like that because this book is very, very complex with a lot of characters and a lot of different plots in there, and it's supposed to be a trilogy, and the trilogy the beginning of a bigger story, and so on. So this is very, very plotted out. But I also have books where I did something in between. So I plotted in advance, I built this skeleton, but then when I start the journey of writing, I let a lot of intuition and ideas flow into me while I'm writing, while I'm doing it. And that's something extremely satisfying, in my opinion. It is a lot of fun, and very often I change things on the way. I sometimes change the order of certain story happenings, or sometimes new characters show up my mind and I think, oh man, that's a cool character. I could bring that one into the story, and I do it even though I didn't have it planned out earlier. Or sometimes a character will have a much more important role in a story than I originally planned out, because I start writing it, I start writing the dialogues and everything, and it turns out, oh, this character is awesome and I would like to give him a bigger part in the story. Or maybe kill him off, even though I didn't plan it in advance because he's annoying. So that happens too. So what I'm saying here is, it's not necessarily that you really have to decide what you are. You can be both. And that's probably something when you're sitting out there and planning to write your first book, or maybe already writing your first book, that's probably the easiest way to go for you. So to finish my first monologue here, maybe we shouldn't work against each other and try to convince each other what is better, the pantser or the plotter. Maybe we just should be both and use both, and also respect each other if we have different opinions about writing. There is no 100% way how to write a good story, how to write a good book. If there were like a recipe how to do it and it will turn out perfect, oh my god, then we would only have bestsellers out there and every Hollywood blockbuster would be excellent, which they are not. So there is no perfect recipe. What I can say is, get out there, sit there, write, enjoy your journey, and I will accompany you on this journey, because I will make a video every month now, and I will try to share some more insights and experiences and ideas I have. If you like, subscribe to my channel, and to come back to the self-promotion, if you're interested, read my book, Shadow City. Of course, it's awesome because I say it. It's awesome because I wrote it. But if you want to read it, I would be very excited. And I guess I see you guys next month. Thank you very much.